folks, we got some bad news this week, and it's not looking good. SCOTUS dealt us a blow, so we'll get into that. And talk of secession has also ramped up in the wake of that ruling, so we'll dig into that a bit as well. And perhaps in one of his final and most consequential acts, President Trump brokered yet another peace deal. It seems like this would be a big deal and dominating the news cycle, but of course, President Trump did it, so we'll get into all of that and more on this episode of the Liberty Cast. What's good, y'all? Thanks for checking us out. And if you're listening to the audio version, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast from. And to watch, head over to rumble.com/thelibertycast and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, before we get started, let's check out a word from Minuteman Coffee.
Abe Lincoln here. In 1773, patriots broke the chains of British tyranny by throwing tea into Boston Harbor. On that day, Americans began drinking coffee. We celebrate that event daily here at Minutemen Coffee. All men are created equal. Coffee is not. Minutemen Coffee is roasted to perfection in small batches. Bold, smooth, and never bitter. Shipped to you fresh daily. Whole bean, ground, or our patented pods. www.minutemencoffee.com.
Be sure to pick some up. I haven't gotten mine yet, but I have heard nothing but good things, great things, and I'm looking forward to my first cup. But anyway, folks, we have a lot to get to, so let's do it. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now that it looks like Harris is going to ascend to the presidency, I mean, come on. How long do you think Biden is going to hang on before they oust him and swear in Harris? Really? But anyway, ahead of their planned assault on your rights, Texas State Rep Terry Meza filed HB 196, which aims to repeal the Castle Doctrine here in Texas. Now, you may have seen some quotes attributed to her like this one. If fleeing is not possible, he must cooperate with the intruder. But if violence breaks out, it is the homeowner's responsibility to make sure that no one gets hurt. The best way to achieve this is to use the minimum non-lethal force possible, because intruders will be able to sue for any injuries they receive at the hands of the homeowner. Now, that's satirical, but doesn't it sound like something a leftist would say? I mean, I had to research to make sure it was satirical. And there are numerous cases around the country where perpetrators have, and their families have sued homeowners for shooting them after they broke into that person's house and attacked them. This proposed law puts the onus on the homeowner to safely retreat, and then only when that is no longer possible are you allowed to engage this scumbag with deadly force. There are so many problems with this, and I could do a whole show on it, but let me just point out a couple of things. What does safely retreat mean? It's not really defined in the bill, and you and I can reasonably deduce what that means, but without it being clearly defined, you can bet that some of these radical DAs like Kim Gardner, Larry Krasner, Chesa Boudin, who we will talk about later, will twist that wording into something that will land you in prison if you kill someone who breaks into your home. And of course, the fact checkers looked at the satirical quotes and they say that the bill doesn't repeal the Castle Doctrine, only amends it. But I submit that is a distinction without a difference. The McCloskeys scored a nice victory in court last week when a judge dismissed Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner and her office from prosecuting Mark McCloskey. For some reason, the cases were separated, even though Mark and his wife are charged identically. I can only guess that it was a defense strategy because the gun that she was wielding was inoperable. So as a hedge, maybe they separated the cases, thinking that her case was even more of a slam dunk. I can't imagine why the prosecution would want to try them separately, but who knows. But the judge tossed Gardner and her office from the case because she sent out these fundraising emails for her reelection campaign that referenced the McCluskey case, and he ruled that those emails raised the appearance of impropriety and jeopardized the defendant's right to a fair trial. I mean, it looked improper and politically motivated from the jump, and then it looked even more of a political hit job when it was reported that the gun that Patricia McCluskey was holding, as I said before, was not operable until the forensic team took it apart and put it back together to test fire it. So it seems pretty cut and dry that this was politically motivated. But a special prosecutor is going to be appointed, so let's hope that the new prosecutor decides that no charges should have been filed in the first place and they dismiss the case altogether. The Mobile County Sheriff's Office in Mobile, Alabama decided to have some fun at the prisoner's expense with a Facebook post titled Happy Thug Thursday Mobile. And it had a picture of their Christmas tree decorated with what they call thug shots, which were the mug shots of all the thugs that they arrested this year. And and prison flip-flops were the topper of the tree. That's awesome. That's funny. I don't care who you are. And the post read, "We have decorated our tree with thug shots to show how many thugs we have taken off the street of Mobile this year. We could not have done this without our faithful followers. Hashtag we love you. Hashtag thanks for sharing." Of course, leftists got all up in arms saying that it was racist and the use of the word thug is racist. But in response, Faith in Action Alabama, FIAL, accused the Mobile County Sheriff's Office of denigrating an unfortunate segment of society in order to in effect pat themselves on the back for a job well done. Part of their statement: "We cannot tolerate, accept, nor pardon the actions of those members of the Mobile County Sheriff's Office who took part in this deplorable act. We call on Sheriff Cochran to denounce these actions, impose disciplinary action on those involved, and mandate cultural sensitivity training for the entire department." They gave the sheriff 72-hour deadline to comply with those demands, and the response was epic. Another Thug Thursday post with a white kid with a warrant this time for stealing catalytic converters. So that kind of blows the racism angle out of the water, doesn't it? But they ended the post with hashtag be nice to him if you see him. Hashtag thugs have feelings too. Hashtag we don't want to ruin his life. Hashtag he's doing a good job of that all by himself. Oh, that's awesome. Now, whatever you think about how the Mobile County Sheriff's Office handled the Thug Thursday Christmas tree and whatnot, and I can see arguments as to why some people would say they took it a bit too far. I disagree with those arguments, but they're reasonable, and I can kind of understand where they're coming from. But we still need to be celebrating the men and women who put on the uniform and leave their families every day to go out and protect ours. And here is a perfect example of why. Back in 2018, Kingman, Arizona Police Lieutenant Brian Zack was called to supervise a welfare check on a house, and there was a little girl named Kayla inside, clearly suffering from multiple injuries sustained over an extended period of time. He spent time with Kayla, coloring and whatnot, while they waited for CPS. And he went home that night and told his wife about this cute little girl. And after visiting her in the hospital, they decided to try and adopt her. After a couple of years of fostering and not knowing whether any biological relatives were going to seek custody, they were finally able to adopt. That's what being a police officer is all about. Not necessarily the end result of the adoption in this instance, but the caring and compassion for people in tough situations. Thank you for your service, Lieutenant Zack. Now, this next story is the exact opposite of honoring police officers. San Francisco police officer Christopher Flores has been indicted by a grand jury for shooting the man who attacked him by repeatedly hitting him in the head with a vodka bottle. Flores shot this scumbag in the leg, which he later had to have amputated. Good. I don't care. I worked with an officer who went through something similar. He didn't end up shooting that scumbag, but I've seen what damage that kind of attack can do, and it's insane. Now, this one-legged scumbag, stop. I don't care. This one-legged scumbag had been charged with 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon and vandalism in connection to this incident. But the DA, one Chesa Boudin, dropped those charges shortly after he took office back in January. Now, Boudin is a former public defender and the son of 2 cop killers, 2. His parents were members of the domestic terror organization, the Weather Underground, and were the getaway drivers in the attempted Brinks robbery in 1981 in Nanuet, New York. His mother, Kathy Boudin, pled guilty to murder and robbery and was imprisoned for more than 20 years. His father, David Gilbert, is still rotting in jail, where his mother should still be, frankly. But he's still in jail after he was convicted of murder and robbery as well. So this guy has no love for the police or the law in general. He grew up visiting his parents in prison and now is running a DA's office that wants to free criminals and put cops in jail. Now, I'd ask how he got elected, but I know the answer. First, it's San Francisco, so there's that. And second, he was backed by George Soros money. And we see how well that's working out in San Francisco. It's a cesspool. Sergeant Herschel Turner of the Moline Acres Police Department in Missouri was assisting a neighboring agency, the Belafonte Neighbors Police Department, with a traffic stop of a stolen vehicle at about 12:30 a.m. on December 5th. Another Belafonte Neighbors officer was arriving at the scene to assist when a vehicle in front of them struck one of the police cars already on the scene. The officer driving swerved to avoid hitting that vehicle and unintentionally struck Sergeant Turner. Now, there were 2 victims in this case because I can only imagine how devastated the officer who struck Sergeant Turner must be. It's very sad. Police officer Tyler Herndon of the Mount Holly, North Carolina Police Department was shot and killed while he and other officers responded to a burglary in progress at a car wash at about 3:30 a.m. on December 11th. He succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at 10 that morning. He was only 24 years old, had served with the Mount Holly Police Department for less than 2 years, and was going to turn 25 on December 13th. And Tyler Herndon is the first officer killed in the line of duty in the town of Mount Holly. Trooper Jennifer Sarnecki died as the result of cancer that she developed following her assignment to the search and recovery efforts at the World Trade Center site following the 9/11 terror attacks. She was pretty much a rookie at that time. When the towers fell, she joined the New York State Police Department in October of 2000. And she served in the New York State Police for 20 years and retired just last month due to her illness. She's a true hero and is survived by her husband, mother, and brother. Say their names: Sergeant Turner, Officer Herndon, and Trooper Zarnecki. Rest easy. Heroes remembered never die. Now, I made a conscious decision not to lead off with this story. It's a big one, and we are going to cover it. So here we are. Now, the Supreme Court has rejected Texas's challenge to the 2020 election results. Now, it's amazing to me how people's hatred of Trump distorts their thinking to such a degree and allows them to reject out of hand all of the evidence that's been presented as being without merit. People who, in any other circumstance, I would not think were this stupid. But the fact that they won't even consider any of it suggests that they are in fact idiots. Now, like a lot of the rejections by district courts leading up to this decision, it wasn't rejected based on the merits. They didn't make any judgment based on any evidence. They, and I believe it was Chief Justice Roberts, rejected it, asserting that Texas has no standing. And after reading more about it and the legal theory, I do understand why the Supreme Court ruled the way they did. Because elections are a state matter, their reasoning is that Texas doesn't have the right to sue another state based on how they run their affairs. Which, all things being equal, makes perfect sense. But here's why I still disagree. These states didn't follow their own election laws, and as a result of that lawlessness, their votes negated the votes of Texans, and 17 other states agreed with that assessment. And also keep in mind, they weren't asking the court to award the electoral votes to Trump. Rather, they were asking them to block those states' electors from voting in the Electoral College. But they rejected the suit with a couple of sentences. The state of Texas's motion for leave to file a bill of complaint is denied for lack of standing under Article 3 of the Constitution. Texas has not demonstrated a judicially cognizable interest in the manner in which another state conducts its elections. All other pending motions are dismissed as moot. Now, Alito dissented and Thomas joined that dissent, stating, "In my view, we do not have discretion to deny the filing of a bill of complaint in a case that falls within our original jurisdiction. I would therefore grant the motion to file the bill of complaint." What they're saying here has to do with original jurisdiction, which means that when a state sues another state, the Supreme Court is where those cases are heard, without going through any appeals process that normally takes place to get cases before the Supreme Court. And Alito and Thomas think that they should have heard the evidence, and I agree with them. But again, I understand why the court didn't want to set that precedent with an election case. That said, there are thousands of affidavits, hundreds of people ready to testify, videos, original documents that should at least be heard by the courts. I don't understand how anyone can look at the piles of evidence and say all of it, 100% of it, is without merit. I have to question your intelligence and your patriotism if that's your position. Because you hate the president more than you love this country. And of course, I don't think leftists love this country anyway, so I guess there's that. Now, my wife and I moved to Texas 15 years ago. It will be 15 years ago next month. I've been hearing talk of secession almost the entire time, especially during the Obama administration. It was relentless. And I always thought it was kind of silly, and it has far-reaching ramifications beyond not having a left-wing president. There are military, economic, trade implications that people haven't even thought of yet. Now, suppose all of the businesses that move to Texas from California pack up and leave the Republic of Texas after secession to the United States. Secession is something that sounds great in theory, but I always dismissed it out of hand, kind of like the leftists do with voter fraud. Although I could always articulate why, unlike leftists, but nevertheless. I'm now coming to the realization, though, that it's something worth considering. Now, I'm not saying let's do it. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon, but at this point, I've moved from it's a ridiculous idea to let's explore whether or not it could work and how. And Rush Limbaugh actually talked about this on his show last week. Listen to how he put it.
I actually think that we're trending toward secession. I see more and more people asking, what in the world do we have in common with the people who live in, say, New York? What is there that makes us believe that there is enough of us there to even have a chance at winning New York, especially if you're talking about votes. I see a lot of bloggers, I can't think of names right now, a lot of bloggers have written extensively about how distant and separated and how much more separated our culture is becoming politically. And that it can't go on this way. There cannot be a peaceful coexistence of two completely different theories of life, theories of government, theories of how we manage our affairs. We can't be in this dire a conflict.
He is, of course, 100% correct. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you heard a leftist say anything that was in the same ballpark as reasonable? Okay, Tulsi Gabbard recently, I guess. But she's going to get voted off the island for that. And she has so many other far left-wing ideas that it doesn't really matter. But there was a time when reasonable people could debate and at least they could agree to disagree. But now, leftists think that conservatives are evil conspiracy theorists. So how do you find common ground with people like that? Whatever middle ground there may have been is the size of a postage stamp at this point. It's all but gone. I can't tell you how many times I've said, I haven't heard from this person in a while. I wonder how they're doing, only to find out that I was defriended or removed from their friends list or whatever. And when your only interaction is on one of those platforms, the only conclusion you can draw is that it was something I said. And that's fine. If that's your response, you're a weak-minded individual, and I really don't want anything to do with you anyway. But it's that kind of division that has driven me to believe that at this point, secession is an idea worth exploring. I mean, I've watched how this country has grown more and more divided, more and more polarized over the past 30 years or so. And I really thought that 9/11 would be a galvanizing event that brought us all together and kept us together in at least one common cause. But that evaporated so quickly. And there are people out there who actually believe that 9/11 was our own fault. Now, I don't know any of those people. Well, maybe I do. Maybe some of those weak-minded individuals I spoke of actually believe that. But there are enough people out there at the levers of power who do believe that 9/11 was our fault, who believe that socialism is a better system than capitalism, who believe that you're too stupid to manage your own lives and need them to do it for you. As you no doubt have heard by now, Chinese coronavirus cases are spiking, so these petty tyrants like Cuomo and Newsom and Baker and Northam are imposing these ridiculous lockdowns and curfews. What does the virus just come out to play at 10 p.m. and then go home to rest at 5 a.m.? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Nothing about any of it makes any sense. Now, you would think that places like California and New York and Michigan and Massachusetts would have lower numbers of cases since they sentenced their citizens to house arrest. But it turns out they're still seeing a spike. Notice how they're emphasizing cases, though, not deaths. Now, the 10 most populous states have the highest number of cases. It stands to reason. 6 of those 10 have tyrant governors who have imposed draconian restrictions on their citizens and economies. If those restrictions worked, they shouldn't be in the top 10. And if that had been the case, I would have a completely different position on these lockdowns. But as it turns out, the lockdowns are having no effect, at least not the desired effect. Florida and Texas are included in that top 10. Now, it took Abbott a little time to come around to Ron DeSantis' position. He saw that Texans were not happy, and his reelection chances took a huge hit. And he still may not win because so many Texans are still pissed. But states like Texas and Florida that place a premium on liberty are seeing spikes as well. But their citizens are able to earn a living. Their businesses aren't being shuttered. People are moving out of places run by tyrants like New York and California to places like Texas in Florida. Goldman Sachs is moving off Wall Street to Florida. Elon Musk is moving Tesla to Austin, and he's already moved himself to Austin. Hewlett Packard is moving to Texas as well. All I ask is don't California my Texas. But getting back to the lockdowns for a second, the people who are going to get the Chinese virus are going to get the Chinese virus either now or at some point in the future when the restrictions are lifted. You're just kicking the can down the road, like I said before. But one of the data points that seems to have people puzzled is why the flu isn't as big an issue this year as it has been in years past. Some say it's due to the masking and social distancing. But if it works for the flu, why isn't it working for the Chinese virus? Or is it working for the flu? And why are other illnesses like cancer and heart disease down as well? I don't think you can prevent that with a mask. And we were talking before how you can't trust the numbers that the government is feeding us. So why should we believe that the flu is down so much? Could it be that the number of Chinese virus cases is being inflated by flu cases? Of course. If they can include a guy who died in a motorcycle crash, they can include cases of the flu. But they need you fearful. They need you compliant. They need you to believe that you are in grave danger, and they're the only ones who can keep you safe as long as you do exactly what they tell you to do and when they tell you to do it. Screw that.
Wake up, stand up. This is America. Be free.
Get woke, go broke. The North Face is an outdoor activity and apparel company, and they have refused to fill an order for an oil and gas company here in Houston, Texas. Innovex Downhole Solutions, they get their employees a Christmas gift every year. And this year was supposed to be a North Face jacket with an Innovex logo. And they've used North Face in the past for similar items. The North Face refused this time and actually compared the oil and gas company or oil and gas industry to porn or tobacco. Now, the North Face is a private company. They can do what they want. This policy, though, is stupid and incoherent, just like most of the left's policies. And many of the North Face products are actually derived from and made with petroleum products. And how do they think those products get to the retailers? Magic? Carrier pigeon? Of course not. Big old trucks, planes, and probably trains. So if they don't want to support the industry, they're going to have to reduce their product line. And then, how are they going to sell any of the merchandise they have left? It's just utterly ridiculous, stupid, and hypocritical. Have you all seen this clip of the mall Santa reducing a 4-year-old to tears because he wouldn't agree to bring him a Nerf gun for Christmas? Check this out.
What do you want for Christmas? You don't know? What? No guns.
Nerf gun.
No, not even a Nerf gun. No, if your dad wants to get it for you, that's fine, but I can't bring it to you. But what else would you like? There's lots of other toys. There's Legos, there's bicycles, there's cars and trucks. What do you think? What do you think?
What's wrong, my buddy?
It's okay if your dad... Oh, don't cry. Yeah, you'll still get it. It's okay.
Dude, you are not really Santa. You are an actor in a suit and you have one job: to tell the kids that you're going to bring them what they ask for. That's it. You do not get to impose your woke beliefs on unsuspecting kids who still believe in the character that you're playing. Now, the mother of the kid showed amazing restraint. I can imagine if the kid's dad had been there, or some mothers who don't mind making a scene were there, how differently that could have gone. I can think of a few mothers and fathers who would have reduced that beta male Santa to tears himself. But regardless, it worked out for the kid, because the mall had a Santa deliver a Nerf gun to the kid. And people like Graham Allen and others have pledged to send him a Nerf gun. So he's going to be fine, and will probably get so many that they will get donated to other kids so that they'll be able to partake in the joys of shooting their friends with foam projectiles. President Trump has brokered yet another peace deal in the Middle East, this time between Israel and Morocco. How many is that now? 4 or 5? You have the UAE and Bahrain, Sudan, and now Morocco. I feel like I'm missing one. Nevertheless, peace is breaking out all over the Middle East, despite what Lurch had to say.
There will be no separate peace between Israel and the Arab world. I want to make that very clear to all of you. I've heard several prominent politicians in Israel sometimes saying, well, the Arab world's in a different place now. We just have to reach out to them, and we can work some things with the Arab world, and we'll deal with the Palestinians. No, 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 and no. I can tell you that, reaffirmed even in the last week as I have talked to leaders of the Arab community. There will be no advance and separate peace with the Arab world without the Palestinian process and Palestinian peace. Everybody needs to understand that. That is a hard reality.
Can you imagine if Obama had brokered even one of these deals? Of course, he hates Israel, so he didn't even bother to try. But had it would have dominated the news cycle. But Trump is getting nothing from the media, despite the fact that he's been nominated 3 times for a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, how much do you want to bet that they try to give Biden or Harris the credit next year? I mean, they gave Biden and Harris the Time Magazine Person of the Year, and they they haven't even been sworn in yet. How do these 2 cheaters, wastes of space, oxygen thieves, who are the CCP's puppets, get Person of the Year? Check out the cover. My bad. That's how it should look. And whoever did that is awesome. Tip of the hat to whoever you are. And that is our show. I will try to do better next time. But thank you all for watching and listening. And until next time, keep your head on a swivel and stay safe, everybody.